All right, here we go. I think we
Are we
should be live.
rolling?
I think we're rolling. Welcome,
Excellent.
everyone, to the G.I. Joe Reveals panel stream. We are very excited to dive into everything that Scott and Sarah went over in the Just Wait stream. There was a lot of exciting announcements, Sergeant Slaughter being one of those,
Yes.
across
So
multiple
excited.
game types. So, yeah, very exciting. So, before we get into it, though, I want to introduce all of my cool guests. So starting with Ryan here, can you just introduce yourself, tell the folks a bit about what you do at Renegade with G.I. Joe games?
I'm Ryan Costello. I work on the G.I. Joe role-playing games. I co-designed the Essence 20 system. I've worked on the G.I. Joe Transformers and My Little Pony role-playing game core rulebooks, and I've worked on a dozen Essence 20 products, including the one we're talking about today, the G.I. Joe role-playing game Sergeant Slaughter Limited Edition Accessory Pack.
Awesome. All right, and let's go over to Jimmy.
Hi, I'm Jimmy. I am a producer on a lot of the GI Joe board games, including the deck building game and GI Joe Mission Critical.
Nice, awesome. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Jonathan Yang.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Yang. I'm the lead game designer for the Guardian system, including Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid and G.I. Joe Mission Critical.
Awesome. All right. Yep. We've got a stacked crew here today, a lot of awesome people. So let's dive into it. Let's start talking about these games. I think the first one we're going to be talking about right now is the G.I. Joe deck building game. So we're going to port over to me and Jimmy here, and we're going to dive into something that we just revealed called New Alliances. This is actually a Transformers crossover expansion. So you get to include a little bit of that Transformers fun. There's some cool cards that we're going to show you on stream here. We didn't show any of that in the Just Wait panel. There's some really neat stuff. So before I spoil all of it myself out of excitement, Jimmy, can you just tell us a little bit about this expansion from the get-go? What's it all about?
So we are very excited to do this. As soon as we came up with like this game and made all the deck building games, we really wanted to what's the first time that we can just cross things over? And GI Joe and Transformers felt like the biggest, most natural jumping point for us to do that in. So we went real crazy in here and threw in everything that we possibly could to just make this the most Transformery, GI Joey game expansion that we possibly could.
Awesome. Sweet. Yeah. I know there's a lot of really cool crossplay, narrative crossplay, mechanical crossplay, a lot of cool abilities that we can see. But speaking to the narrative points first, I know there's a really cool crossover mission. What can you tell us about that?
So, real quick, I'm going to preface this by saying that the G.I. Joe deck building game and the Transformers deck building game are just still completely different mechanics. You don't need the Transformers deck building game in order to bring any of those components into the G.I. Joe deck building game. The two systems just are not compatible at all. So we wanted to do our best to make sure that the Transformers experience was as best represented in the G.I. Joe system as we could.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. And I know we've talked a bit about what that looks like. I've seen some spoilers of this. I've kind of pulled some images and looked at some of the fun stuff that players are going to get to experience. Speaking to the mission, speaking to the story that players play through, because in the G.I. Joe deck building game, it's very narrative based. And that's one of my favorite features of this game is as you're playing through it, it's not just all about the gameplay. It's about a story. And you're playing through a narrative with branching arcs and pivotal moments and critical things that happen. So without spoiling too much, what can you tell us about how we're going to feel the Transformers involvement in this new G.I. Joe expansion?
So without getting too spoilery, that's a real challenge.
It's tricky.
So the gist is that the alien robots have arrived on Earth, and the G.I. Joe team is trying to figure out what is going on. One robot, Bumblebee, has come to you and is requesting your help, and you, as the G.I. Joe team, are exploring how deep this plot goes. And we took a lot of inspiration and references from the comic book lines from the TV series. We like drew on this wealth of crossover content that has happened before with G.I. Joe and Transformers, and kind of just merged it all together into our own little story here.
Amazing. Yeah, that's wonderful. Very cool. Then I won't press you for any more because I know you don't want to spoil too much for the players. But jumping away from the narrative, let's talk about Joes. I'm sure we're going to be getting some new Joes in this pack. Yes?
Oh, we sure are.
All right. And who are those going to be?
So we've got two new starting Joes for you to play, and lots of other Joes and characters that you can recruit in the main deck. But your two new starting Joes are going to be Cover Girl.
Oh, nice.
And Marissa Fairborn is actually going to join the Joe lineup. Although she is technically not a Joe, it seemed it would be a complete disservice to not include her in this set, because she is one of the humans who interacts most with the Transformers, and felt like the most natural fit to join the lineup.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Cool. And what can you tell us about these Joes? How was it designing their abilities, and how did you really make their individual strengths shine through mechanically?
Well, Cover Girl she's the tank girl, really focused on vehicles and bringing your transports into play and making like the most out of it. If you think your vehicle can only go up to a 10, she'll turn up to 11. That's just her skill. And being able to play around like all the transports and making that work with the Autobots is just a real cool thing that she can do, and just felt like a natural fit. Marissa Fairborn is one of those human characters who kind of deals with a lot of fallout whenever the aliens are fighting. So whenever things are looking pretty grim, whenever she steps into the picture, she has a way of just being able to settle down the conflict and lower the threat level. So we wanted to make sure that threat resolution side of her character really came into play. So as things get real bad and real dicey, if you picked Marissa as one of your characters, she's gonna pay off and shine in dividends for you.
Excellent. Yeah, that sounds awesome. All right, and then bridging away from the new GI Joes that we're going to see as playable characters in this pack, let's talk about something new called Decepticon officers. What can you tell us about those?
So the Decepticon officers, they're really, really mean.
Are they difficult?
Yeah.
All right.
So the Decepticon officers are going to be extremely difficult to fight off. We'll see. You can see on the stat line here, they're going to be pretty tough, even by Joe standards, late game GI Joe standards. It's going to take a lot of hits and a lot of successes in order for a regular Joe team to defeat. Thankfully, we will be able to get some help from the Autobots in order to bring them down.
Awesome. Yeah. And as it should be truly being challenging, I think that these massive Decepticon robots, it speaks true to their nature. I'm seeing it on screen right now. Yeah, an 8. That is a hefty challenge rating.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fun. Is fun the right word?
Fun quotation marks?
Yeah, right. I don't know about you, Jimmy, but my rolls with this game are notoriously bad. Like, guys in the chat, if you have seen our playthroughs in the studio, it's embarrassing. I have rolled like 6 zeros back to back to back. So I dread my encounter with his tank Megatron, but hey, we'll see how it goes.
So note to self, don't play with Jordan if I want to win. Yeah. But no, I would maybe if I want to laugh and meme a little bit, then I think that's a good time.
Yes, very good time. All right, so bridging into the next topic here, I just want to ask you quickly about the bonus box, because I know a lot of people get very excited for those pre-order bonuses. Can you tell us a bit about what we're getting with this expansion?
So you're going to get 2 cards for the main deck. If you are expecting playable heroes like we have done in the past, I'm sorry. We decided to throw everything in the kitchen sink into this expansion and making it like the coolest story and like main deck that we possibly could. So the 2 cards that you'll be getting are Grimlock to go into the Autobot roster, and Dinobot Rampage, which helps, Rampage.
Awesome. That's okay.
We'll talk more about how the Autobots work later. But there's a fun preview for you. And then the second pre-order bonus that you will be getting is inside of the set comes a big punchboard tile representing the the Autobots mothership, the Ark.
Oh wow, that's really cool. So you get the cards and that punchboard tile.
The bonus pack will include a upgraded version of that of the Ark, which will be a dual layered punchboard tile.
Wow.
Allowing you to store your dice and like slot in your upgrade tiles to just feel nice and premium and swanky.
Awesome. That's really cool. All right. Then, yeah, like Jimmy said, if you want to hear a little bit more about the more Transformers side of this expansion, then stay tuned for the Transformers reveals, which is going to be happening right after this stream. But I think that's all we're gonna reveal right now in this stream for New Alliances. But before we jump into the next thing, I think it's time for a giveaway. I think someone in the chat needs to win this game. That's right. So if you haven't already seen some of the other streams, the way these giveaways work, we are flying in early copies of these games. So whoever wins this giveaway is literally going to be one of the first people in the world to receive this game. Before people at Renegade, certainly before anybody else in the player base. So really cool. To participate, just comment in the chat which New Alliances feature that we just talked about you're most excited about. So you guys can go now. And the moderators are going to do a little moderator magic. Somebody's going to get pulled. And then we'll have a winner. So let's see. Let's keep an eye on the chat here and see what people are posting.
I see lots of woos and yays.
Devastator.
Oh, yeah. More dice.
Eric. Cover Girl from Matt. Autobots from, me too. That's so.
Megatron Hiss Tank. That's very cool. Playable like Cover Girl. Yeah.
I was just going to say that's what I'm most excited for. Optimus Prime. Cover Girl again. Grimlock. Oh, okay. Now it's picking up. Moving pretty fast.
Marissa Fairborn, represent.
Grimlock. Solo play. Cover Girl. Grimlock. Oh, all right. Looks like we got a winner here. I see Ian O'Neill. Arc punch out thing. So he likes the arc punch out from the promo. I agree with you, and it actually looks really cool. I love swag items to dress up my play space.
Oh man, get the swag. Gotta love it.
Right. All right. Well, congrats, Ian. You will be getting a game. You'll be getting a copy of New Alliances early. Just email customer service at renegadegames.com and they'll get you set up. We've got you recorded and everything, so we'll know who you are. All righty. Pre-orders for New Alliance is open now. So if you want to get the bonus box, you want to get the game, go pre-order it today. And yeah, I think we can move on into the next thing. But you know what? That giveaway was so much fun. I think I want to do a bonus one.
A bonus giveaway?
I think, let's do a bonus giveaway. Why not?
That sounds fun.
Because actually, our friends at Diamond Select Toys, they sent us 2 G.I. Joe statues. I mean, these are literally statues. So let's give those away right now.
All right.
So, congrats, Ian, on that giveaway. Let's jump right into the next one. Comment your favorite G.I. Joe character in the chat. This will be more of a general one. And then the moderators, again, are going to do their moderator magic. Somebody's going to get picked, and you're going to win these 2 statues from our friends at Diamond Select Toys. And yep, I see them pictured now. These things are amazing. The detail on them is crazy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right? All right. I see Snake Eyes. Sean is saying Destro. Yep.
Shipwreck.
Yep. Snake Eyes, Snake Eyes, Snake Eyes. A lot of Snake
Thank you for the tunnel rat love.
Blowtorch. Oh, yeah. Blowtorch.
Ooh,
Shipwreck.
yeah.
Uh-huh. Duke.
A little bit of Flint in here. Deep Six. Yeah.
I'm not seeing my favorite. Where's barbecue? Snake
Storm
Eye.
Shadow. There we go.
Scarlet. Storm Shadow. Yeah. Storm
Mutt.
Shadow.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You mean Junkyard? Mutt is great, but Junkyard is the main character.
Yeah. That's fair. Sci-fi. Ooh, sci-fi. Yeah, he's cool.
Ooh, sci-fi is pretty great. Law.
Scarlet. Oh, all right. We have a winner. Oh, Y Wingscom. He's one of our regulars here on the Discord. Congrats, man. Destro is his favorite Joe. So you are going to be taking home these awesome statues from our friends at Diamond Select Toys. Congratulations. Same deal. Just reach out to Renegade Game Studios or customer service rather at renegadegames.com and we'll get you hooked up. Alrighty, I think we're ready to launch off into the next talking category. So thank you, Jimmy. That was awesome. But let's switch gears and talk about the role-playing game. I'd like to get Ryan in here.
Go, Jordan.
Hello, Ryan. All right, let's get into it. So I've been looking forward to talking about this one, Sergeant Slaughter. We heard about it last night. This is super exciting. I'm an RPG guy, so I do have a little bit of bias to this category. I'm very, very excited for this. So yeah, let's just jump into it. As I understand it, this thing is packed with content. The Sergeant Slaughter limited edition accessory box, bit of a tongue twister. But can you tell us what's inside that box?
Yeah, I think people should know that it may sound like we're talking about 5 different products or so when we're talking about this, but everything we're going to be talking about right now is in this box. Basically, the reason it's limited edition is because even though Sergeant Slaughter is famously a G.I. Joe, he's also a real person, and so Hasbro just can't do G.I. Joe stuff with Sergeant Slaughter whenever they want. So likewise, Renegade can't just put out stuff. That's why Sergeant Slaughter wasn't in the core rulebook. But a small window opened where we were allowed to do some Sergeant Slaughter stuff, so we just decided we would do all the Sergeant Slaughter stuff we could think of in one pack. So we've got a source book in here with all kinds of options that are inspired by Sergeant Slaughter. We've got an adventure where you are being trained by the Renegades, joining the Marauders, going on a mission to save Sergeant Slaughter or work side by side with him. Sergeant Slaughter doesn't need saving. We've got standees. We've got a Sergeant Slaughter unpainted plastic miniature. We've got maps. We've got punch-outs for all of the tanks that are associated with Sergeant Slaughter. It is just crammed with so much stuff. And it also, because we needed to get this out in a hurry, it introduces a bunch of mechanics that were supposed to be introduced in books that were written before this, but are going to come out after this. So there's a whole bunch of new stuff. It's like a preview for the next 2 years of what to expect from the G.I. Joe role-playing game.
Wow, that sounds really cool.
It is really cool.
I love the enthusiasm. Yeah, it is very exciting. You mentioned an adventure book. What can you tell us about that adventure book? I know it's tough to talk about an adventure book without spoiling the actual narrative, but yeah, what can you tell us?
All right, well, there is one thing that we might as well spoil because it's in the title, and when we get to the pawn set, you'll be able to see there's one pawn that stands out as particularly monstrous. The name of the adventure is Marauders versus the Slaughter Monster. I wanted a throwback to like the Pulp Fiction that inspired a lot of the writers of the old animated series. And so if people remember in the animated series when they were trying to clone Serpentor, they added Sergeant Slaughter as a secret ingredient, and then Cobra Commander spiked the DNA goo, and just this giant red hamburger-like monster came out. So that monster makes an appearance in Marauders versus the Slaughter Monster, shows up pretty significantly towards the end. That's one aspect of this story. The main thing that you need to know is that it is just going to be layered with as many references to Sergeant Slaughter as I could. Probably the best example, like this won't really be spoiling much. The best example of how I approach a product like this is that I wanted to make sure that when you're just reading it, if you don't know anything about Sergeant Slaughter, everything makes sense. But if you know more G.I. Joe, you will be picking up on Easter eggs that are kind of hidden in there. So when you meet Sergeant Slaughter on the deck of the USS Flag, he's surrounded by battle android troopers. Somebody on the flag says, like, that Joe's in trouble. And then somebody else says, but that Joe's Sergeant Slaughter. Then he beats up all the bats. And then the bat faces become a view screen, and Overlord comes on, a member of G.I. Joe of Cobra High Command, not G.I. Joe High Command. He challenges Sergeant Slaughter, disappears. Sergeant Slaughter says, like, oh, I hate when he does that. And what that is actually, it's taken the first Sergeant Slaughter commercial, which starts with Slaughter surrounded, lift ticket saying that Joe's in trouble. Like that, all that dialogue comes from the first commercial that ever featured Sergeant Slaughter. And then the other stuff comes from the last commercial that ever featured Sergeant Slaughter, where he and Overlord would have these like dueling, they would just be trying to promote the new Joes and the new Cobras. And when Sergeant Slaughter gets interrupted by Overlord, that commercial ends with him saying, like, I hate when he does that. So again, if you just want this as a cool scene on its own, everything in there makes sense. But if you know the entirety of the Sergeant Slaughter commercial oeuvre, like every commercial that Sergeant Slaughter is featured in, references all throughout, just anything I could pack. If there was a sentence that didn't have a Sergeant Slaughter reference, I tried to rewrite it to make sure some reference to Sergeant Slaughter media or whatnot was in there. So if you are a Sergeant Slaughter fan, you are just going to blow your mind reading through this and seeing all the little things that are integrated into it.
That's awesome. That sounds really cool. I love how genuine it sounds. It's very obvious that you're a very real fan. So that's fantastic. I think that speaking as a fan of RPGs, it really matters when the creators are real fans. So that's great to see. All right. So let's talk about the source book. There are 2 books in this pack. So that covers the adventure book. What can you tell us about the source book?
All right. So the source book, we wanted to make sure that, again, everything that we could possibly do related to Sergeant Slaughter is in there. So in the original toy line, there's 4 different Sergeant Slaughter toys. 2 of them are basically the same, but we wanted to make sure that there was rules representing each different version. So there's a new officer focus called Drill Instructor, and that's mainly how people think of Sergeant Slaughter. That's his main look. That's what's on the cover there. And it is an intimidation-based officer. The officer in the core rulebook is either persuasion or deception-based, but this focus makes it so that if intimidation is your main skill, you are going to be motivating your allies by like really just ripping into them essentially. Like there's one of the perks is called hup 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 hup, and you make an intimidation skill test, and then all of your allies get a bonus to their movement equal to that rounded down to the nearest 5. So if you roll a 20, suddenly everyone is 20 feet faster because you are not going to let them be any slower than that.
I love that. That's awesome.
Then we've got the Renegade focus is called Slammer. People might know that when G.I. Joe was imported to other countries, some of them thought that the name Sergeant Slaughter was a little harsh for kids' entertainment. And so he's renamed Sergeant Slammer as reference to his pro wrestling roots. So we named the Renegade focus option Slammer, and it is the pro wrestler focus. And so the Renegade is already like the up close and in your face role, but surprisingly, none of the focus options in the core rulebook are really about just hand-to-hand melee stuff. So that's what this one is all about. And it's got Try Me. Try Me is its main perk, and that is basically on your turn you can challenge another character to come and fight you. So you're basically giving them bonus movement and a bonus attack, but then you are doing a counter attack, and whoever has the better attack actually is the one whose attack comes off. And it's based on in the animated series when Sergeant Slaughter is being he's training all the Joes because General Hawk thinks they need to be whipped into shape. And Wetsuit is like, oh, come on, Sarge, you're just being so rough on us. Why don't you get in on this? And Sarge is just like, try me. And all the Joes jump him, and he's just throwing all the Joes around. He punches Flit in the face, which I still don't really appreciate. I don't want to have to choose between 2 of my favorite Joes. And that scene really kind of like, I don't know, put me in a decision-making spot I didn't want to be in. But otherwise, memorable scene. And so that was the inspiration for that perk and like kind of the driving force behind the Renegade focus. And then finally, the Vanguard has a focus option called Marauder, and it is about a tank commander. So the Vanguard is a little bit nebulous in theme in the core rulebook. It's the idea of someone who's not an officer, but they are a leader and they lead by example. And we've got like a heavy weapon leader and whatnot, and the bodyguard. So this one is, if you want to be a tank commander, this is the vehicle-focused Marauder. Doesn't have to be tanks. You can, jets, boats, whatever kind of commander you are. And it's just about like, I forget the name of the perk, but one of the perks is that if your tank isn't working, you can make an intimidation skill test. Oh, no, sorry. It's actually, if anything is not working out for you, you can make an intimidation skill test in place of what other skill it is. So it's like if you're trying to turn on your tank and it's just not working and you're like, not today, tank. And so then somehow the tank works just because of the force of will. You force the universe to align with what you wanted out of it. There's also, beyond just focus options, there's little alternate perks. So the Vanguard has a perk in the core rulebook that a lot of people have said they don't quite think the theme of it jives with it, and that's your personal shield, which is like a force field around you, which Sergeant Slaughter has never been known to have. And so we've got an alternate perk where you can replace your personal shield with, instead of having technology protecting you, it's just you are so dense and muscular that your defenses go up.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. This sounds awesome. And again, speaking as someone who plays RPGs twice a week, there's a lot of really cool gameplay interactions that I can already anticipate players experiencing. So that's very neat. Cool. So what about stats for Sergeant Slaughter? I mean, I think many of us would agree we want to see him as an NPC in our game. I assume those will be included, yeah?
Yeah, he's represented in 4 different ways. So one of them is a threat stat block. He actually has the highest threat level of any threat in the game at this point. So whether you need him as the main villain of a Cobra campaign, or you just want a really elaborate stat block for him to go on adventures with you, you have a fully fleshed out TL23 stat block. But the other thing is that, and this is when I was saying we're previewing some mechanics that are going to come in future books. We've got a new mechanic called contacts. And the idea was that one of the main feedbacks we got from the core rulebook was that people didn't feel like the established Joe characters were mechanically represented in the game enough. If you wanted to go on an adventure with Snake Eyes, Scarlet Duke, whatever, you couldn't really do that. And we didn't want to just give you a full stat block for those characters and tell the GM, here is another character that you have to keep track of. So we came up with this alternative to that called contacts, which is a much simplified version of it where each contact gets 3 perks and the players decide how they want their contacts to come in. So like all of the Marauders, all of the Renegades, Lieutenant Falcon, and 3 different versions of Sergeant Slaughter are statted out as contacts here. And the best example is Barbecue. If you're on a scene and there's fire and Barbecue is one of your contacts, one of his powers is he just puts out fire for you because he's the firefighter. And so Sergeant Slaughter has a lot of leader-based contacts, and depending on which one you become allied with, and in the adventure you're allied with one of the 3 different versions of Sergeant Slaughter as a contact, depending on how well you do in the earlier scenes. So there's many different ways that you can team up with Sergeant Slaughter, as well as all of the Marauders and the Renegades and Lieutenant Falcon, the honorary Renegade.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, I saw a question in the chat. Is the Sergeant Slaughter sourcebook going to be in PDF form? Yes, indeed. And in fact, these packs are available for pre-order right now. Your pre-order bonus is going to be a free PDF. So definitely go and place those pre-orders if you're interested. Okay, so wow. Yeah, you were not lying when you said there is a ton of stuff in this pack, because
we're just on the second book.
Right? We're just on the second book. We've been talking about it now for a few minutes, and we haven't even ventured into the standees, the maps, and a Sergeant Slaughter mini. So can you tell us about those?
So every pawn that you are going to need for this adventure is represented as a standee. Sergeant Slaughter comes as both a standee and an unpainted plastic miniature, so depending on which one you want. These, if people saw the Power Rangers panel just before, these standees are something that we're going to be rolling out more and more of for the role-playing game, but this is the first one for the G.I. Joe role-playing game. So you've got all 6 Marauders, which includes Slaughter. And you've also got Junkyard gets his own standee. You've got Lieutenant Falcon. You've got all of the villains in the adventure. So if you're playing in this, don't pay too much attention to the graphic if you don't want to be spoiled. But there's definitely some exciting things in there. And then if you see lined up in the front, you've got the different vehicles. So you've got the Warthog, Overlords, Dictator. We've got 2 Marauder tanks, and we've got the Triple T. So all the tanks that are statted out in book 1 have pawns in case you use them in the adventure in book 2.
Awesome. That's really sweet. I love the inclusion of the vehicles. The map tiles definitely add a lot. I will say that in my experience playing RPGs, just simply having standees like this that can add some theme to your sessions makes a huge difference. So that's very cool. All right. So Ryan, we've already sort of covered the fact that you are a big Sergeant Slaughter fan, but we've got hard evidence. We've got a picture of you with a mustache, I think 7 years old. So I just wanted to show that to the viewers. I think it's super cool. again, I think it's so important that people who really care about these brands are working on these games, and that is the case here. So very cool. And as a fan, can you tell us a bit about why Sergeant Slaughter is such an important character, and how you approach designing the pack? You already gave us a bit of insight into how you pulled from shows and stuff, but is there anything else you could tell us?
Well, I mean, Sergeant Slaughter, the reason I'm such a fan of him and the reason that he left such an impact on me is that he really is like, he jumps off the screen. He's not just one of the animated characters. He also was doing, like, introducing the commercial breaks. So you'd see a live action Sergeant Slaughter multiple times every episode, even if Sergeant Slaughter wasn't in the episode. He was a spokesperson on the commercials. He was just all over the place. And the Sergeant Slaughter you saw in live action was exactly like the Sergeant Slaughter that you saw in the animated series. So it really was like, this is not just a cartoon character. It made you believe that this guy, when he's done introducing the commercials, is going to go hang out with Snake Eyes and go on adventures. Right. So, like, yeah, it was really easy to be immersed into it. Sergeant Slaughter is a surprisingly amazing voice actor, considering, that's not his background. His background, is performance, but it's professional wrestling. It's a much more physical form of performance. But, like, he probably does a better job than Don Johnson in the animated movie. And Don Johnson was, an A-list actor at the time. So yeah, so many of his quotes are so memorable, which was super useful for me because it meant that when I was naming perks, I didn't have to come up with, a description for what this perk does. I just needed to find the nearest Sergeant Slaughter quote that fit the mechanic, and vice versa. Sometimes I had some really good Sergeant Slaughter quotes, and I needed to figure out how to make mechanics to bring that quote to life.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I think that covers everything. Everything we're going to tell you for now, at least, about this pack. We don't want to spoil the actual narrative. It's a really cool pack. I'm looking forward to bringing this to my table. So if you're interested, this is up for pre-order now. You will get free PDF promos with your pre-order. So go ahead and get that in and smash that pre-order button if you're interested.
And when it's gone, it's gone. This is limited edition, and that's not just, we're not just saying that. We only have a small window that we can actually sell this.
Yes, as Scott and Sarah told us last night in the Just Wait panel, this is a limited game for Renegade. This is a special one, so I suggest not waiting. I suggest going and ordering if you're interested, because this one is very special. All right, I think I want to do another giveaway. The last two were so fun, I want to do another one. And this game is so awesome, I think we need to give an early copy away to somebody. So let's kick it off. For this one, just comment in the chat what you're most excited for in this Sergeant Slaughter limited edition accessory pack. There's a lot of things to be excited about. So just pick one and the moderators will do their magic and we'll pick a winner. I
don't want to bias anybody, but I think maybe those pawns might be the most exciting. I feel like once... like beyond the box set, you're going to be using those for years. You got a whole bunch of vehicles. You got a whole bunch of battle android troopers.
I would totally agree with you. Standees, like I said, they bring a lot to the table, and they're really an invaluable addition. Drill instructor, the drill instructor role is so cool. I agree. Slaughter mini, yep. The adventure, standees, the adventure book. Seen a lot of standees. I think a lot of people agree with us. The Slaughter.
People like the miniature.
Yep. The source book, yep. Everything. Is there an everything option? There should be.
There has to be. I mean, you're getting everything when you buy the box, so you don't really have to choose your favorite thing in the box.
Right. True. All right. Slaughter Adventure. Hey, the Z-Mage. How you doing? Scott. Oh, Scott won.
Hey, up back Scott.
Yeah, the miniature of the Sergeant Slaughter mini. That is a really cool addition. I am excited for that too. Miniatures painters, I'm sure will rejoice. Congratulations, Scott. Just go ahead and email customer service at renegadegames.com and we'll get you set up. You're going to get an early copy of this game. All right. Well, I think that covers it for that one. But before we transition out of RPGs, I do want to talk a little bit about the Play Renegade program. This is a very exciting program that's coming up for GMs. Essentially, what it does is it provides GMs who want to run games at local events, public local events, with a free adventure. So that's really cool. It's I think something that is going to be a way to give back to the community, let them experience this game that they're passionate about, and provide outreach for it. So to qualify, all you need to do is go sign up at the Play Renegade page right now. And you need to tell us where you want to run these events. Public events qualify, such as conventions, local game stores, library games, stuff like that, anything that's not a private game. And then online games will qualify too. So if you're a streamer, if you play on some platforms that host online games to the public, you may also qualify. And you can just tell us what that is. There's a quick little approval process, and then you just get a free adventure. And that's how this works. It's super cool. And don't worry if you don't run games in public spaces, but still want to experience these adventures and run them for your group privately. They will become available every 6 months on a rotating basis, and we'll rotate in new adventures to the program. So there's always going to be fresh content for GMs. So once it rotates, it'll be a web store item. You can pick it up as a PDF. All right, I think that's about it for that one. So definitely sign up today. They're coming in March, so it's right around the corner. You can start running these next month. And yeah, I think we have a little sneak peek today. The first adventure that we're going to be releasing for this program is called Operation Spring Cleaning. This one's really cool. I read through the adventure. I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to spoil it, but it's a really fun adventure. Translates very well to a public event. Shows off a lot of the core features of the game. So this will be fun for new players.
Do you know who wrote it?
I don't off the top of my head, but it was one of us that in the pool. But yeah, it's a very good adventure. So whoever wrote it is very talented. All righty, let's move on. We are going to jump out of RPGs. Thank you, Ryan. That was really fun. And we are going to start talking about Mission Critical. Let's bring Jonathan Ying in here.
All right. Are we rolling?
We are rolling.
Nice.
All right. Let's jump into talking about another Sergeant Slaughter game.
Man.
This is called the Sergeant Slaughter Character Pack. It's coming in the summer here. So let's just jump right into it. Jonathan, what can you tell us about this character pack?
Yeah, so this is a unique single-figure hero expansion featuring, as obviously, Sergeant Slaughter. He was a very fun character design. I remember when, we were first talking about getting the license and being able to do it. It's like, I think we could do Sergeant Slaughter. I was like, I'm in. I immediately dove into the spreadsheet to start cooking what he can do. He's, we've got hero scaled Sergeant Slaughter mini. And his character ability, we wanted to kind of, unlike the RPG where you have this nice broad set of things, we kind of really had to distill so much Sergeant Slaughter stuff into just the one character kit. So it's he's a drill master. He is a hand-to-hand fighter. He's very fun. But yeah, his main ability is drill master. He can basically convert any character card into a 3-die attack. He just discard a card and then and then tell someone else to just punch someone. And he's got a bunch of very fun cards, a lot of them featuring some of his most famous moves and techniques. I think we've got the inverted suplex slam, which is very fun. He has one of his unique mechanics is that a lot of things that he does scales actually off of the number of various things, like having multiple rangers do something or having an enemy with more keywords on them. And so basically the more keywords that are on an enemy or the heavier they are, the more damage the inverted suplex slam is going to do. Gotcha. And he's super fun to play. He's got a very unique play style among characters in the Guardian system. And he synergizes really uniquely with a lot of heroes. Generally, you'll probably want to team him with characters with a lot of good card draw, just because he'll burn through cards real fast as he tears things apart. And of course, we wanted to add a vehicle with Sergeant Slaughter, and we've got the Triple T, which is just fantastic. It's one of the it's a fun little vehicle, but it's got a very heavy 3 theming. It costs 3 enemies to use, or 3 experience to use. If you perform a 3-die attack, which Sergeant Slaughter can trigger with his character ability among some of his other skills, then it adds another 3 dice to that attack. So it's just laying down a full 6 dice attack for what is often more basic maneuver. But yeah, it's his signature vehicle. He is super fun to play, a real powerhouse, and I love bringing him to any game where I'm allowed to bring him. And his figure's so fun. I love the scale of the minis. It's like that big chunky Guardian System scale. Yeah, we got to get some fun detail in there. His dukes are up. He's fun.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, that sounds amazing. Pre-orders are actually up for that now. So if you guys are interested, go ahead and jump on that. So that sounds really cool, but that isn't it for Mission Critical. We've got another thing to talk about, and it's called the Chaos Break expansion.
Yep.
This is coming up here in April already. This is releasing quite soon. We are going to be, just like we did for Heroes of the Grid, if you're a Heroes of the Grid fan last month, we had a plethora of spoilers released over the course of last month. We're going to be doing the same thing, basically starting next week. But before then, to get a jump start on that, Jonathan, what can you tell us about this expansion? What makes it exciting?
Yeah, so we've got Zartan and the Dreadnoks. We've got Road Pig and Zorana. They're here to cause some trouble. They've got a really unique playstyle as like a group where they're heavy on misdirection and chaos. They're very slippery opponents. But a good answer to them, of course, will be our two heroes in the pack. We've got Ripcord and Beachhead.
Nice.
Ripcord has, I think, an entirely new power for the Guardian system where he can discard cards in order to move to an entirely new location. He's all about parachuting into an engagement and sort of getting in a surprise attack. He can call in cargo drops to support the team as they run low on cards. He's like a great support hero, but also just kind of can be where he needs to be immediately. He's very, very unique play style in the game. And Beachhead, meanwhile, is kind of pushing himself to his limit. He's built around his abilities getting stronger as he has fewer cards in his hand. And like, once his hand is empty, he can just start unloading. So he really goes on like a knife's edge in his play style. And we've got some beautiful sculpt for all of these heroes. I'm super excited for like when we start, doing full spoilers for these cards, because they've got really fascinating kits. We've been Mission Critical. We've been really pushing the Guardian system to do some really cool stuff to get these Joes to do their signature themes and to really lean into what makes these Joes super unique and fun.
Right.
So yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool. And I know we've got a lot of miniature fans in the chat. Will we get to see minis for these guys?
Yeah. We got pictures for those?
We do indeed. We get new sculpts for, I believe, all these characters you just mentioned, right?
Yep. The bow on Zartan was one that like is very tricky, like for our sculptor, but Nick did a great job.
I know weapons can be tricky, so
and like little like thin stuff. But yeah, I think they're great. Man, Road Pig's big hammer. I love this. Like Warhammer is a cinder block on a stick. It's like, oh, what do you have? Oh, like an M1, like a giant machine gun. What do you have? A cinder block, and I'm gonna hit you with it. I'm like, hey, gets the job done.
What do you need? Yeah.
Yep.
And if you guys want to see actually that Zartan mini that we were just talking about in action in our Mission Critical painting stream, Lila Mev is going to be painting that later tonight. So be sure to tune in for that. All right. Well, that all sounds really cool. And Jonathan, as you mentioned, the Guardian system previously, Power Rangers is a cross-compatible game within that system. So how will Chaos Break interact with Heroes of the Grid? What can fans of that game expect by putting this pack into their play?
Yeah, we generally test a lot of these characters like with their own packs, but I know a lot of players just like really love mixing and matching. And so kind of in our free time, we'll often make sure to, check in like, hey, what cool combos can we get together with these? And I got to say, I do personally really love comboing Beachhead with Rangers with good card draw, but also he kind of interfaces in a really fun way with the Black Space Ranger, who also kind of wants to burn through his cards very quickly. Ripcord kind of teams up in a really fun way with the Phantom Ranger, who can like they're both of them are incredibly mobile and can kind of be where they need. I find it really fun to kind of mix and match these heroes and rangers into really neat teams, which is important because a lot of these enemies that are coming out are pretty spicy as more heroes come out and the customization gets more elaborate. it is important that enemies kind of match that challenge, right?
Certainly. Awesome. Very cool. Well, my last question for you, Jonathan, is going to be about the bonus pack that people can get for pre-ordering this. Can you tell us a little bit about what's inside that?
Yeah, so we've got a bonus pack. It features 4 new vehicle cards, all featuring vehicles from the G.I. Joe series and toy line. We've got some very cool ones. Unfortunately, I have not been cleared to spoil any of them yet, but they're going to be super fun. I'm really excited for people to see them. But yeah, so you'll get for pre-ordering Chaos Break, you'll get Chaos Break and a full vehicle pack with 4 new vehicles to add to your pool of options in each battle.
Awesome. Yep. And like we said, guys, we're going to be releasing a bunch of spoilers for this pack over the next month here. So make sure to keep an eye on socials. If you're in the G.I. Joe communities, you're all set. It's all going to go there. If you're not, then just ask people in the chat and they'll direct you to where to go. It's a very helpful community that we got here. All right. So before we finish up here, I want to do another giveaway. Yeah. I think that we need to do one for Mission Critical. So, people in the chat, go ahead and comment which Mission Critical reveal you're most excited for, Chaos Break or the Sergeant Slaughter character pack. I'm very curious to see.
This doesn't seem fair.
Hey, we'll see. I think Chaos Break sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Beachhead fans versus Sergeant Slaughter fans. I don't know, man. Like, I love Beachhead, but
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, Sergeant Slaughter. All right, first one, Sergeant Slaughter.
Yep,
Sergeant Slaughter. Yep.
Hey, I mean, to be fair, Zartan is pretty sick.
Yeah, he is.
Road Pig.
Yeah. Matt says break, Chaos Break.
Road Pig enjoyers.
Scott W says Chaos Break. He likes the Dreadnoks. Yep. Wow, it's moving so fast. Can't even read it.
That's
Chaos Break.
You'll love to see it.
Eric says Chaos Break. A lot of Chaos Break, actually.
Okay, yeah. Maybe I DOS protest too much.
Eric Morns wins. He says Chaos Break. There we go.
Hey, Chaos Break.
There it is. Yeah. All right. That is our final giveaway of the G.I. Joe stream. Congratulations, Eric. Go ahead and reach out to customer service at renegadegames.com, and they're going to get you set up. You will be getting an early copy of Chaos Break. All righty. Well, thank you, Jonathan. That was really exciting to hear about.
Yeah.
That's it for Mission Critical. And yeah, let's jump into our wrap up here. So we're going to have a lot of Gen Con events planned going on for G.I. Joe. If you're a G.I. Joe fan and you're going to Gen Con, you're going to want to come see us. We've got a deck building game league that you can participate in throughout the whole weekend. We've got RPG session, an RPG event on Saturday evening that I'm not going to spoil too much about, but actually Ryan is writing some really cool stuff for that. It's going to be a blast. And even more things throughout the weekend. So stay tuned for our March 1st special edition Just Wait Renegade Con. We're going to be diving into all of this Gen Con stuff. We're going to be revealing more game reveals, showing off more things that are coming up in 2023. So yeah, this is just the beginning, quite literally. And don't forget to place your pre-orders. All of this stuff we just talked about is up for pre-order now. So if you're interested, go smash that pre-order button. All right, guys.